Well, I just wanted to chat a little bit about this upcoming fiscal cliff. This has been, a long time in the making. This is not something that just happened overnight. Um, the fiscal cliff was something that basically it was a last minute deal that the Congress made and the president signed on to that said if they couldn't get things situated, all these cuts were going to happen. Tax increases were going to go into place. The last thing we need right now is taxes going up. Um, I don't care what your political perspective is, whether you're a Democrat or Republican or independent. I just don't care. History will tell us John F. Kennedy cut taxes, revenue to the government went up. Reagan cut taxes, revenue went up. George Bush cut taxes, revenue went up. It's it's one of these things where you only have so much time to do a video, and so many people are just they're just ignorant of the facts, and I don't mean ignorant necessarily in a bad way. Um, they're products of government school and real crappy government schools that haven't they don't teach civics or economics anymore, not even basic economics. There's kids getting out of high school that don't know how an economy runs, but they can show you 27 different ways to put a condom on a cucumber. That's what's important to the government, right? But it's kind of a catch-22 with the government because our government does not have a moral compass anymore. And when you cut the taxes, revenue to the treasury, which is the government, goes up. The problem you got is when the revenues go up, they just spend it, and then they set the new level as well. That's what we need every year, and it keeps. So it's like if you cut the taxes to stimulate the economy, more money goes to the government. They just keep spending it, and then when the economy, which is a cyclical thing, it goes up and it kind of slows down. It goes up and slows down, and it seems like it seems like when things slow down from a boom, then they want to raise taxes. That's the last thing you do. Okay, you get a short bump, increase, but then it just falls off. Why? It's very simple. People don't spend money. When they don't spend money, nothing is sold. Things aren't produced. You don't need to hire people to build and ship and supply and stock and sell more products. Government spending gives you this little short-term bump. It's like a false bottom. It just because what the government spends, they take out of the economy. They take what people normally would have spent and put it in the government. And some real scary numbers that came out the other day. Those people who are on, that are unemployed, they're on unemployment. And what was the other thing? What was it? Oh, yeah, is government workers themselves who draw a government paycheck, and people who are receiving government assistance. Okay, not including Social Security. I believe the number was 87 million. Okay, somewhere around I think 35 or close to 40 million people are actually government employees. Okay, now total taxpayers paying taxes 109 million. Folks, it's not hard to do the math and just look at it. So you got 87 people getting money from the government. Okay, the government gets its money from the taxpayer. Okay, there's only 109 million people paying taxes. 87 million taking, 109 paying. Does that not just tell you something? There's some other statistics. Let me run this past you. We're spending now about $500 billion a year. $500 billion, $500 billion to pay the interest on the $16.3 trillion debt. Okay, think about that. The government total receipts that they get in in taxes? About $2.2 trillion. They're spending almost 25% of everything they bring in to pay interest. Okay? Now, I want you to think about that, because not only that, of the $2.2 trillion, $500 billion goes to pay interest. Then they're borrowing another $1.3 trillion from unfriendly governments like China. They are printing paper, which makes, they're printing dollars, which devalues the currency. They've already, if you don't already know this, they've already raided the Social Security. There's no money in it. It's basically they take it out and they write IOUs. So think about those numbers. I mean, $500 billion a year in interest. Imagine if we didn't have that debt. Okay, just $500 billion a year. All the damage from Hurricane Sandy, I mean, I've heard different estimates, $50 to $70 billion. You could have rebuilt that, what, 7 times? Just if we would have saved, not had to pay this interest and saved it. We could rebuild, and that's just from 1 year's worth of interest. We could rebuild all the interstates and redo our entire power grid, okay, with 1 year's worth of interest if we didn't have a deficit. We could take that, that $500 billion, put it into Social Security, not only give people, increases on Social Security, we wouldn't have to raise the age, and it would make it solvent for generations to come. We could fund Medicare, Medicaid. We wouldn't have to sit here and tell doctors, you're going to have to take 40 cents on the dollar. And, because doctors can only do so much before they have to stop taking patients like that. So, I mean, think about those numbers. There was another article that came out from Pennsylvania, their Department of, welfare or whatever it was up there. A single mom with 2 kids making $29,000 a year is better off making $29,000 and keeping her government benefits than she is to get a job paying $59,000 a year. Think about that. When you are paying people that amount to stay where they're at, they'll never aspire to be better. What's the incentive? What is the incentive to go out and work harder when you can sit there and get 29 grand a year and get another basically $30,000 a year in benefits and not have to do anything except have it taken away from somebody else? Because all the money that is paid to people is taken away from somebody else. Somebody else earned that money that was taken from them and then redistributed it. How is that fair? And it just, what's going to happen when there's not enough producers to meet the demand of all the takers? What's going to happen? Greece is what's going to happen. People are going to rise up. Folks, you can't do. Here's what you got to do. Look, here's the truth. Okay, I don't give a damn what your political affiliations are. Sorry. The government only brings in around $2.2 trillion a year, and they're spending about $3.5 trillion. That means they're borrowing $1.5 trillion. Okay, they've never paid this crap down. They've never paid it back. Okay, and old sugar daddy Obama, he is going to keep that sugar going to you people. He is going to keep giving you that stuff. He's going to give you that sweet tooth, and as long as you keep pulling that lever for the old sugar daddy, I'm sorry, but the president is all he is a drug pusher. He is a drug dealer, and his drug is money. He's going to roll that sugar into you, old sugar daddy Obama, and he is going to give you that sugar until your teeth rot out of your head. And when your teeth rot out of your head, he's going to send a dental bill to your kids and grandkids. Now, you tell me, what kind of person are you that you think that's a good idea? As long as you get your free stuff, screw your kids, screw your grandkids. If that's how you think, then you need to just shut the hell up and never vote again, because you're not a citizen. Part of me thinks that people on public assistance ought not be voting. Part of me thinks that. The other part of me says, well, there's some good people that are struggling that actually use the system as intended. not as a lifestyle, not as a means, but just as a temporary program to get them back on their feet. But I think anymore, that's the minority. But back to what I was saying, the government's borrowing, what was it, 46 cents of every dollar that they're spending? Now, all this nonsense you've heard comes from the president, from his water boys, and this drivel from Congress. They're pretty much everyone is lying to you, because here's the truth. Come on, America, most Americans, you know how to do basic math. Okay, if you want to reduce the deficit, you have to reduce below what you're bringing in. If the government's bringing in $2.2 trillion and you're spending 3.5, in order to reduce the 16 trillion, you have to cut. You cannot tax your way out of this. Okay? You've got to cut from 3.5 to below 2.2 trillion. Okay? You have to, or you'll never pay into the principal. You know, they say raise the taxes. Oh, we're going to raise the taxes on the rich. What did they say that would fund the government for, what was it, 10 days or something, if you put that 3% tax on the rich? And it would take 514 years to pay off just a 2011 deficit. 514 years to pay off the $1.3 trillion deficit. If you took 100% of all the money that the millionaires and billionaires make in a year in this country, took all of it that they make in a year, it funds the government for 6 weeks. Okay? Raising taxes isn't going to solve anything. You've got to cut spending. You've got to cut it below the amount that they're bringing in. Otherwise, the deficit will continue to climb. The stuff about cutting, they're talking about, what is it, $800 billion? That's over 10 years. That's $80 billion a year. Okay, to put that in perspective, if you're borrowing 1.3 trillion and you cut $80 billion, or let's just say you raise $80 billion in taxes, okay, and they actually applied the $80 billion towards the debt, you would still end up borrowing $1.22 trillion. You see the scope of the problem here? It's not something that you can just tax your way out of. You can't do it. If you took every cent that the economy makes, that's everything that happens, all the transactions that occur within the economy, you could pay the debt off. If nobody made a nickel, if you took everything that was ever generated in a year, you could pay the debt off, but nobody would have anything. So just look at the facts. These, what I've told you, are the hard and cold facts. That's the truth. Again, I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a Democrat. This affects everybody. And what's interesting is, like Obamacare, when it kicks in, the taxes and everything, because see, we haven't felt near the effects of what Obamacare is going to do. But interesting enough, those who have studied it, the states that are going to be hit hardest by the fines and the impact of when Obama gets into full swing, Obamacare, are going to be the states that voted for him. Well, they're getting what they voted for. Unfortunately, their decisions ripple down to everybody else who didn't, which is, a topic for another discussion on stuff like universal health care. You know what? I don't care that Massachusetts did it, because if it sucks, all it does is hurt Massachusetts. It doesn't hurt the people in California or Kansas or Colorado. But when they push everybody in the nation under one program, when it fails, we all suffer. And let's face it, folks, the government does not run anything very well. The post office, Amtrak, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, they don't do a very good job at running programs. So I hope you look into what I said and verify it, and get a hold of your House and senators, and tell them, knock it off. We just can't keep going like this. So I appreciate you watching.